we actually haven't talked about this, but this has been a big story now
Oh, right.
for months now. Do you guys know who this is? So this is Army Specialist Vanessa Guillen.
Right.
She went missing in April from Fort Hood.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And so I just wanted to touch upon some stuff with this. Hold on one second. Okay, so I came across this story. So it says Guillen's family as they push for military. Oh, sorry, my bad. All right. No wonder. I was like, wait. All right. So, terrible story. Trump meets with Vanessa Guillen's family as they push for military sexual harassment reforms. And this is from USA Today. And so it says President Donald Trump met Thursday with the family of Specialist Vanessa Guillen, who disappeared from Fort Hood in April and whose remains were found earlier this month. So he did talk about, he said that it's an incredible story. It's, terrible. And he also said that they're going to look into it very powerfully. The way that he speaks about things.
Yeah. He very, very strange. Yeah.
I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
So he said, we already have started, as you know, and we'll get to the bottom of it. So we'll see. I mean, maybe it actually will. The fact that this story has gotten all the way to the president, I think that it puts a lot of pressure on him. The fact that he met with the family to actually, hopefully, do something. So we shall see.
So what is the significance?
I thought he also said they were paying for the funeral. And,
yeah. So that's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
What were you gonna ask?
So what is the significance of this story? I mean, obviously she was murdered. But is the idea that it was covered up? Is that why is this different from all the other homicides that happen around the country?
So you gotta let me talk.
Okay, I'll let you talk.
All right. So a funeral has not been held because Guillen was dismembered, and relatives are waiting for her remains. Her family's lawyer, Natalie, I'm not even gonna try that, told Trump, which I thought that was just like, really, if you know the details of it, like they decapitated her and they just like they chopped her up, they burned her, and it's really disgusting what they did. So he, this was Trump. He said, if I can help you out with the funeral, I'll help you out financially. I'll help you. And this is obviously her mom. Which her mom has been such a strong lady, because obviously that is, like, I mean, you guys are parents. How do you deal with something like that? Like, how do you have the bandwidth to deal with something like that? I don't even know. So it said, also Thursday, the Army named an independent panel of 5 experts to investigate whether personnel at Fort Hood and the surrounding community have allowed for a climate of sexual harassment and discrimination to flourish. So it's going to be led by Chris Swecker, who is the former assistant director of the FBI's Criminal Investigation Division. So the reason that it's had to go to now having a federal investigation like this is because Fort Hood, they have been doing an investigation, but for like 6 weeks, they had nothing. They sat on nothing. They weren't even really looking for her. And so it is the same issue that we have with police investigating themselves. You cannot have any trust that the investigation is going to be done thoroughly or correctly or ethically, because they are investigating themselves. So if something's going on, then obviously they're going to hide it, and there is a lot of speculation with her murder, that what they're saying is that it like she wasn't supposed to go into work, but she was called into work, and they ended up finding like her card key, like all this kind of stuff in this armament room, and supposedly that's where she was murdered. But the fact that none of the cameras worked again. No cameras working. Supposedly all the cameras are duds. They're just there for show on Fort Hood. Okay. And that no one saw anything, like the time that it took for this supposed person to kill her, for him to go and clean this whole room, because supposedly the way that that he killed her, that he stabbed her and all this kind of stuff, it would have had blood everywhere, and there wasn't blood that was found all over the room. So it's very weird. And the fact that she had come out and said that she was being harassed by a superior, right? And so obviously we know that with the Army there is this culture, there's this issue where there is sexual harassment that goes
Right.
on, and unfortunately, because there isn't a third party that they can talk to, that they can ask for an investigation, then a lot of the times they get shot down, you know. Which, I mean, look at the way that we treat other sexual assault victims. Imagine in the Army or in the military. So it says, Army has been under fire for its investigation into the disappearance and death of Guillen, who was 20 years old. That's the other thing.
Oh,
And her whole, like, ever since she was a little girl, she always wanted to be in the military. Like, she had all these aspirations, and that's how she met her death, her end, you know? And so investigators had focused on specialist Aaron Robinson, who supposedly was the person who called her into work, as the primary suspect. And it says it took 2 months to develop evidence to lock him up, and he fled before he could be detained and died by suicide. So again,
no
it took
kidding.
2 months to develop
So-
evidence. Okay.
So he either did it or he did the call in
Or
collusion
he was the patsy.
with somebody else, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it says, earlier this month, Army officials disclosed that Guillen may have been harassed in an unrelated matter to her disappearance. Are you serious? Like, seriously, may have been harassed. They're not saying for sure, okay? In
Wow.
an unrelated matter to her disappearance and murder. They're saying that for
Yeah,
sure,
how are they-
100%.
With no evidence. That's crazy, right?
Exactly.
Right. That's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It says that matter is under investigation. And so now there is this I Am Vanessa Guillen bill, and which would allow active duty service members to file sexual harassment and assault claims to a third party agency instead of the chain of command. So, you know, these bills, they never go far enough, but at least it's starting the conversation, and hopefully that would actually do something. So it
Right.
says U.S. Reps Mark Wayne Mullen from Oklahoma and Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii are sponsoring the bill. Representative Jackie Spire, a member of the Armed Services Committee, is preparing legislation to reform prosecution of sexual assault cases in the military. The measure would also direct the Government Accountability Office to examine the Pentagon's sexual harassment and assault prevention and response programs and its procedures for responding to missing troops. So, again, obviously, if this was just one person, this would not be a story. This is a story because obviously this is a problem that they're having with Fort Hood. And who knows if maybe it's just military culture, you know, outright. So then I came across this other article, which it's from Missing People in America. I don't know the legitimacy of this website or anything like that. I'm just using it. But and so you have pictures here of these different people who have gone missing from Fort Hood. And so this is from June 25th, 2020. It says that Fort Hood is located in Killeen, Texas. It's the biggest armored U.S. military base in the world and houses over 65,000 people. It's nicknamed the Good Place because of the supposed quality of life the post and area offers soldiers and their families. And so they go through this list of people who have, you know, essentially disappeared or showed up dead, but, you know, they condense it into this timeline. So from March 2020, okay, you have Shelby Tyler Jones, 20 years old, U.S. Army, gunshot wound, Killeen, unsolved homicide. March 5th, Christopher Sawyer, 29 years old, U.S. Army, found unresponsive at on-post residence under investigation. And that's the other thing. A lot of these, it's, you know, who knows how these things have gone down. Also on the 5th of March was Raul Torres, 24, U.S. Army, passed away while stationed at Fort Hood, cause of death unknown. March 14th, Shaquan Allred, 23, U.S. Army veteran, gunshot wounds, Killeen, unsolved homicide. Also March 14th, Freddie De La Cruz, Jr., 23, U.S. Army, gunshot wounds, Killeen, unsolved homicide. March 25th, Victor D'Onofrio, 22 years old, which again, these guys are so young. It's so sad.
Yeah.
U.S. Army died at Fort Hood. Cause of death unknown. April 2020. On April 22nd, Vanessa Guillen, 20 years old, U.S. Army, missing and foul play suspected. Last seen in the parking lot of a regimental engineer squadron headquarters. May 2020, May 18th, Brandon Rosencrantz, 27, U.S. Army, gunshot wound, Parker Heights, unsolved homicide. Again, this has all happened since the March. Okay, this
In
is
in a fort of 65,000, which isn't
right. It's
a
not like
huge.
it's not like it's happening in the
Yeah.
state of Texas. This is
Right.
all happening in this
Yeah.
little
Or it's
concentrated area.
it's not New York City or something. It's
And then here in June of 2020, the remains were found of Gregory Weddle Morales, who had been missing since August of 2019. Again, 23 years old, U.S. Army, unsolved homicide, body located off post in shallow grave after declared AWOL. There's something going on here, obviously.
But I mean, so Vanessa seems like a different situation. I mean, all the rest are like guys, right? So the others, I would speculate some kind of who knows, I don't know what, some but she, I would assume she was like a sexual assault.
Well, what has been speculated is that the way that the culture is here at Fort Hood is that if you speak up against something that's going on, that's the consequences. There will be consequences for you speaking up. And Vanessa Guillen's sister, I don't know if it was at a press conference or something, but she has said that there's over 200 people that have gone missing from Fort Hood. And so like now they're pushing for a congressional investigation into this, because I think there needs to be some sort of formal investigation needs to be done into what is going on. And hopefully this will just be the first of many investigations that will look into this sort of culture.
Well, I think you're right, Daisy, that it's. I mean, you mentioned military culture, and maybe Fort Hood is worse than the rest of them, but I think it's the military. What is the military? The military is an organization that uses violence or the threat of violence to enact a change or policy, right? That's what they're all about, And like you didn't have, and it's also very heteronormative. Organization. I mean, until recently, you didn't have women in combat or whatever. So it was like a very much a male-dominated, weapons-dominated, violence-dominated organization. And not to say there aren't good things about the military, like their training programs are fantastic and everything. But when it comes down to it, when push comes to shove, what the military is about is basically using violence or threatening people with violence, right? I mean, that's what they're all about. They're not about like, let's talk it out, let's work out a solution, right? So, I mean, it's inevitable that this kind of culture in the base, I mean, this is a derivative of the whole organization, of the whole military.
It's about accomplishing the mission by any means necessary. That is the goal of even if you look back at the way that Tulsi used to talk about stuff, she always used to say it's about the mission. We got to accomplish the mission. It's ingrained in them, indoctrinated in them, that is how you look at things.
Right. So murder is not an impediment. If your mission is trying to cover up something, then that's going to be your little private mission, and you're going to do whatever it takes.
And there's also the psychological effect of being the military is like the ultimate in peer pressure, right? I mean, in order to be able to, there's a reason for that. In order to have a cohesive group, in a foreign land fighting, you need to take commands without question, right? So you kind of do, right? I believe it's probably true that there is some kind of breaking down of personalities and rebuilding in the image.
That's what boot camp is for, right?
That's what boot camp is
for. I mean, I do believe that.
I mean, isn't West Point
happens, right?
Isn't West Point like that, where you get I don't know if the term is being shunned or whatever, but it's something like that. That if you blab on a peer, that you get ostracized,
and the military, somebody in the military might kind of reasonably say that if you don't behave that way and we're in a combat situation, if you don't unquestionably do what your commander says, that's a risk to everyone. All right. And I think that probably gets carried into Fort Hood or military and home bases, you know.
I was just following orders. Yeah.
To what now?
I was just following orders.
Yes. That's right. Oh
Yeah.
man.
So
Scary stuff. That is scary.
Here's hoping that, you know, something actually comes out of this. Like I said, the fact that, you know, it's gotten to Trump's, you know, this could be something that looks really good for him, that helps him out. I hate always looking at things from a, you know, presidential campaign standpoint, but unfortunately that is how these things are looked at, you know.
Oh yeah.
It's always a photo op. It's, you know, all these people are just surrounded by all these PR consultants, and, you know, so for him, well, I'm sure that
how many people went and drank the water at Flint, Michigan, and is that crystal clear water now? No, of course not.
Exactly. And think about how, you know, like the fact that you know, Trump's numbers have been hurting according to the polls that are out there, right? And one of the things that people are not really happy with was his sending the federal troops or the federal agents, you know, over to Portland, and threatening to do that in other places. People don't like that, you know, and that kind of hurts him, especially when you had those veterans that were forming the wall of veterans, and, you know, and so this can kind of bring him in if he's able to, you know, actually find out what happened over here at Fort Hood and expose somebody. Again, most likely they're just going to use somebody, have them as a patsy, and, you know, that's going to be the cover for everything. And again, I'm sorry that I'm such a cynic. It's just what I'm conditioned to, I guess.
I don't think it's going to be enough for him. I mean, it's one thing. I mean, maybe he has some October surprise, but I would think it's got to be more than just solving this case.
No, I'm not saying that this would be the be all end all, but I just feel that any sort of actions that are taken at this point, they're always calculated. They're always trying to see how many points does this help me? And him meeting with the mom and all this kind of stuff, I just don't feel that it was just this genuine urge that he had to, you know, to make her feel better about things and to show that he is such a compassionate person. That is not the goal, I'm supposing, you know?
Yeah. Well, he is in a desperate battle. I mean, basically, I've said this before. If Trump had said that what they should do with the protesters is shoot them in the leg instead of shoot them in the heart, that's a valid approach, like Biden did. Yeah. You would hear it 10 times a day for the rest of your freaking life. I mean, he's in the media situation is just completely unreal. I mean, it's complete fiction that you get from most media these days. Our blessed alternate media on YouTube, et cetera, is the exception, you know.
Except for TYT, right?
There, yeah.